as you have seen in the earlier clip, Malaysia have grown tenfold over the last 5 decades since 1980s. Now, this webinar will roughly take you around 45 to 50 minutes, and by the end of it, you will walk away with the understanding of challenges facing the retail and the wholesale industry in the coming decade. For those that just joined in, I am Zentrix from Zia Asia Syndrome Berhad, and our topic is focused on from e-marketplaces to e-malls. This is also created for academics, mall owners, entrepreneurs, and even government officials to think about the coming evolution in the shopping scene. Now, let me share with you the deck. Okay, so what is Zia Asia, which if you allow me to explain further. So our portfolio surrounds basically, there are 3 pillars. We surround ourselves with big data. Like for example, we focus a lot on supplier chain utilizing blockchain, working with Doxia Holdings, and Trancomatic, whereby we help malls and tenants to focus on video analytics. Our second pillar focus a lot on omni-channel, like for example, our e-mall, Monster Mall, which is just starting this year. And of course, at the same time, Vigran Group, which we help tenants to focus on multi e-commerce platform in terms of when it comes to integration. Of course, the third one, we are pretty much the third and final pillar is we are very focused on smart wearable. For example, we are Polar distributor in Malaysia. We are Mowbray distributor in Malaysia, which they focus a lot on the earbud. So we are very much focused on the Southeast Asia market. So as for myself, I've been involved in the retail and wholesale industry for the last 2 decades and serving primarily in the watch industry. However, I also specialized when it comes to mass market segment other than the luxury segment. So here is a project which I have done in 2018 as I was in charge of overseeing Citizen's 100-year anniversary in Malaysia. Now that's why it comes to today's topic. Let us just quickly recap. The topic that I want to focus in is the e-marketplace that is evolving into e-malls. After all, everybody is just, in Malaysia, they're just getting used to e-marketplace. Some of, I would say, not say some, majority of the, people that I talk to, businessmen, academics, they're still pretty much thinking that we are still in the e-marketplace era, which is we are actually evolving into something else. Now, for those that missed my earlier introductions through coming into webinar right now, this is roughly going to take around 15 minutes and this content is actually created for mall owners, brand owners, distributors, retailers, and of course government officials to understand and size up the opportunity to leverage on the coming decade as the landscape in retail and wholesale evolves. Now, let us look at the numbers. I always like to zoom in from the big picture side. Okay, so uh, before we move further into the nitty-gritty details. Now, as you can see, the numbers show that the last 6 years, progress of online and offline sales is derived from the official figures from National Property Information Center, the Retail Group Malaysia, when they give their interviews during to the age. So for a start, the retail industry, if you look at it, is not having the best of the last 6 years because every year there's always something that um, happening. So in 2015, you have the GST. Okay, so 2016, Shopee and the rise of online marketplace came about. So that was actually a very big aggressive push to the market when it comes to e-commerce marketplace. 2017, there was pretty much the presence of a weak ringgit as the domestic spending actually go down as foreign importation of goods is more expensive than before. And 2018, the digital free trade zone was established together with Alibaba to really zoom in and focus Malaysia to be a logistical and e-commerce hub. So 2019, when we thought that, the worst couldn't be coming is that you have more malls entering the market. So if you want to do a quick one, you can realize that it's from 145 million square feet to 176 million square feet. So that's roughly a gain of 30 million square feet in the space of 4 years. So it further dilutes the concentration of offline sales. And in 2020, COVID strikes. And that pretty much took away, of course, the tourist spending and confined everybody to Malaysia. And of course, during the movement control order, I believe that I do not need further explanation. Now, the retail sales stands at 90.5 billion as of 2020. That is roughly the whole year offline sales. Now, e-commerce on the other side has grown from 4 billion to $16.68 billion. These are e-commerce bracket product. So it has risen to 18.4% with a projection of hitting 21.35 billion this year. So from a 4%, it actually went up to 22.4%. When it was around 4%, you have offline malls, offline e-retailers saying that it doesn't matter. When it grew to even as high as 8.6%, which is lower than the 10%, or even 2019 when it hit around 10%, is still not so worrying because end of the day it's just 10% of the overall sales. Now, in 2020, when you saw that the tourism tanked, nobody comes to Malaysia, you can see that the increasing leakage of the offline sales going to the online sales. So that is probably explaining why that the numbers went up to 16.68 billion because everybody is at home and they are just buying from home. Now, again, we take one step back. In 2019, even at its peak with tourists still coming in, the increase in sales versus the increase in the physical mall net lettable space is lower at 17.3% versus 21.3%, meaning that the space was increasing at 21.3%, but the growth in spending was actually at 17.3%, which is much smaller than the growth, the supply itself. And the MD of even KLCC was even stating that his biggest concern is that there was a big net lettable space. And it is believed that by the end of 2019, Malaysia will have approximately 700 malls. Now, of course, if you really look at the earlier overview video, which I have shared, it is hitting 1,037. Now that doesn't sound right? But if you take out the arcade, which they actually incorporate into 1037, pretty much is about 700 malls, of which around 60% are concentrated in the Klang Valley. So to sum up, based on these numbers, the offline stores have to cope with number one, that is increased net lettable space more than the market can absorb, and the supply of space is continue to have another 10 million square feet coming in the next 2 years. With like Bukit Jalil, Pavilion, Bukit Damasaran, all coming up. And the second thing is that the aggressive nature of e-commerce is not going to stop. Instead, it's going to become even more aggressive than before. So, and the third thing is that during this year, 2021, the offline mall owners got to cope with zero tourist spending, which normally comes about maybe 10 to 15 billion dollars of ringgit. So without all these things, how would the e-malls be of a bigger threat to the existing offline, or say the shopping scene? So what is e-marketplace? For the benefit of those that is not aware, or you might not be from retail or wholesale industry, I will just give you a quick intro about this so that you can follow up the pace of the entire presentation. Now, for those that are already very well versed with this, and this feels like, a bit draggy, do pardon, and I hope that for the benefit of the people attending this webinar, they can also gain the same level or minimum level of understanding so that all this important information makes sense to them. So let us look at the four elements of e-commerce or e-marketplace. Number one, e-marketplace is basically a place whereby the different vendors and buyers converge online to buy and sell. So that's it, right? So it can involve one singular category or multiple categories across the board. Now, it comes from, just imagine, it comes from all the web stores, all converging into a central e-marketplace, like a typical taman, each of them came together, like pasar malam, everybody came together, everybody focus and draw in the traffic. So singularly, they might not have so much traffic. Together, that appeals to the buyers and draw in the traffic. That was the evolution. Now, there are generally three types of marketplace. So you have business to business, you have business to consumer, and you have the third one, which is peer to peer. For example, Carousel is an example. For example, Buddha is another example, where the end consumer sells to another consumer. And normally these involve used goods most of the time. And in the appearance of 2015, because before 2015, there was, of course, there was already existence of e-marketplace, but it was not really an e-marketplace. It haven't taken its full form. Only in 2015 and 16, when 11th Street and Shopee came into the picture, we saw a rapid acceleration of what really an e-marketplace is about. So if you look at, if your understanding is of e-marketplace based on 2011 or 2012, that's outdated. Because as for when e-marketplace really coming with all the features and everything was actually starting from 2016 onwards. So here, just to give you a quick understanding of the short history of marketplaces in Malaysia and how it has evolved. Now, this is pretty much what I've explained earlier. 2004, the first e-marketplace that came in was actually eBay, followed by Leilong, which is local, and then you have e-tailers like Fashion with Ballot also coming in, but at that time they haven't grown to such a size. 2011 pretty much is Muda. 2012 Lazada was formed, came with the picture. Herman was formed, another local player. And Carousel was also formed, which is focused on C2C or peer-to-peer. But only in 2015, as what I mentioned earlier, whereby Go Shop, Shopee, 11th Street all came in. But that wasn't the big boom during then. What happens was by 2017, the buzz surrounding the e-marketplace caught even the eyes of the Malaysian government, and it came out with the National E-commerce Strategic Roadmap by 2016. It was actually to pivot the economy to take more attention towards e-commerce. So 2018, I already mentioned earlier, pretty much the digital free trade zone was established. And I think my dad did a very good job in the entire in the entire setup. And 2020, having said all these things, that was building pillars to push the e-commerce further and deeper. 2020 was I would say that perfect source to actually accelerate all this and onboard all this digitalization and e-commerce process. So there you have it. That you have it in terms of the history of the Malaysian e-marketplace. So let us look at the objective of this e-marketplace, because this is very important for you to understand, even for some of the people that are working for the malls. They might think that why are they spending so much money? So have a look at this. Local player was around 1 million, with also Leilong around 1 million per month, 1 million traffic a month. So that's almost like 27 times higher than any local player. So why are they doing this? Why are they fighting and putting so much money to get traffic? So again, I will answer this later. But right now, all these things that is actually ongoing, when they are putting all this money, they might not get profits and they might not get the sales number that people expect them to get. But what they have done is that it actually changes the dynamics of retail itself. For example, they change us in the way how we shop without us actually realize that we have been changed as part of the process. Let me ask you, how many of you actually just, start to really look at, marketplace, you add the app during COVID period? And you add the item inside and you try to figure out how to navigate in between those processes. Do you start to see most of our friends or our colleagues or people stuck at home starting to explore all these things? Well, in the past, their busy lifestyle couldn't allow them to afford to have this. So it changes us, right? And more importantly, they really focus on the younger generation more than us. So that means those people below 30 years old. So how does this really changes the dynamics and the rules of the game in retail? So it impacts generally four key things. Number one, is a very fast. We are actually just very focused on the those below 30 years old right now, because they buy very differently from the people that are even from my age group. They buy very differently. I have heard, or maybe some of you all could have seen that your kids, or if you are old enough, your grandkids, buying things without really checking out the quality, and they just transact online. They could go out, spend easily 1,000 ringgit, come back and say that I have this, and that's it, and it's been used before, and they don't mind. Now, if you said that this is for those that is right now in their 40s, this is unimaginable. And those that are right now in 50s and 60s, this is ridiculous. Why would you pay so much money for something that you want to buy that is used, for example? But the younger generation, they don't mind all this. So it's a very fast changing dynamics that is actually going on the ground. Next, the evolving e-marketplaces. Now, we don't see the most evolving, other than promotions and, credit card promotions, more center court events, but it is evolving in a traditional manner because it's based on quarter season. But in e-marketplaces, it keep on changing. What used to be only like 11, 12, 12, right now they have 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. So it's keep on evolving. And is giving more stronger and more creative pressure to the entire retail scene. Third, with so many malls at 175 million square feet, so we believe that there is going to be a physical mall consolidation. I mean, based on the way that I have researched. Just to give you a size, if let's just say Malaysia have, you minus off the arcades, you minus off those high rise and approximately 700 malls. Now in US, you have 1,100 indoor malls, okay, which based on the reports coming out, 25% of this 1,100 malls is going to close down. Despite that they are having a population size of around 300, or I would say around 400 million population, and that is considered as a surplus. That means it's too many malls. So if you right now look at Malaysia, it is like having 700 malls or 32 million people. So the rest of the map do your calculation. Now, the fourth thing that is increasing in terms of the retail trend is that there'll be more regulation coming in. We're already starting to hear that there's an e-commerce tax. And all this taxation is not just unique to Malaysia. Everybody is going to do the same thing. So these are the four things that will impact the retail industry as a whole. So we are going to see that, number one, the people that is right now in their 30s, in another decade time, they will be the one with those that right now in their 20s will become 30s, and those that right now just 10 years old becoming 20 years old, those will make up the main bulk of the buying behavior. We're going to see that the e-marketplaces is going to change in the next coming decade. It's really going to change much more competitive than before. And we're going to see that the malls, only the pretty much the malls, how they, centralize with a very niche team to actually still be relevant to the shoppers. So they're going to try much harder to be relevant, and we're going to see the weaker malls becoming more empty. It's going to be most probably the sign of things to come. And of course, we have regulations. So all these four things are the things that is going to impact retail industry as whole in this coming decade. So let us look at the evolution of e-marketplace, which is general category, to a specialized category.
They like to shop inside retail shops. They need to keep on shopping. They can't make decisions. My company is her model MI. We've been 7 years in the market. Basically, we start this business for women business. We're selling variety of skincare and cosmetic products. So now we have 400 over brands, 18,000 SKUs, 300 over 1,000 active users that actually keep on shopping with us. We know men really can understand women, so we understand what is their needs. There's the times that me and my partners go with our female friends, our girlfriend. They like to shop inside retail shops. They need to keep on shopping. They can't make decisions.
So it just come to my mind, and then with my another partner Ian, that actually we can just do all this by online. So people can shop online, they can choose whatever product that they like.
So as you can see, Herman is a typical fast-growing specialized e-marketplace on its own. It's local and they don't need any retail space, but they need a warehouse as a fulfillment ground. So you were going to see all this evolution going on, not just unique to Herman, but there'll be more coming up in this coming decade.
They like to shop inside retail shops.
So what they have done is that they have evolved in what we call e-tailers, right? Big e-tailers, or if you want to give them, that's a very general category for them. They are big and they actually focus on one singular category. If you think of beauty, you think of buying from them, and there's no need for them to actually go, into the malls itself. Because like what they said, they got 300,000 regulars already. And they just need to focus, and with all the brands joining them, there is no reason for them to pivot otherwise. So they are evolving from e-marketplace, which is very general. Now, if you look at in 2011, that is pretty much non-existent, but they grow since 2012, and they have grown since then. And right now, they are just very specialized e-marketplace. So if you look at the e-marketplace was pretty much rotating between general and specialized. Something actually big is coming. The e-malls. Okay, the era of the e-malls is already coming. Now, what was on the drawing board in 2016-17 when the IoT was, the Internet of Things, people start to talk about the Internet of Things, AI, big data, started to talk about all this. In 2017, this was already 16-17, that was already on the board. They are drawing and they're trying to get things moving for e-malls, but it is only because of the COVID that this is right now a reality. So have a look at this.
Alibaba is definitely on the forefront of leading the change in the way luxury brands do retail. Tmall Luxury Pavilion is really unique worldwide because it is the only place and the only platform I know of where brands have 100% control over everything. They pick the price, they pick the merchandising strategy, they pick the communication strategy. Our model allows brands to really communicate directly with their consumers in China, tell their brand stories, and have that one-on-one communication. Lots of luxury brands are working with us already, and I think the main driver for that is that if they want to communicate with their consumers, which are younger, specifically in China, they're about 10 years younger than they are in their overseas markets, they need to be using the channels where those consumers are, and those consumers are on digital. So I think it's really a question of consumers driving brands online, because that's where they need to be. We launched the Tmall 2.0 flagship store last year, and that has a lot of fantastic tools that brands can use to really up their game in China about how they're communicating with consumers, bringing them in store, doing online to offline, doing personalization. So this allows them to experiment and innovate in new ways. We've seen a lot of live streaming, we see little short video contents, and even in some of the merchandising selection that we have on our platform is going to be slightly adapted for the China market. And having brands learn how to do that well will really help drive their success for the China market. What I've seen since I started working so closely with China, is to see the speed and the innovation and the way that really Tmall listens to brands and works together with brands to make better products. We've started 2020 with a bang. So we opened Cartier.tmall.com, a first luxury brand from Richmond. So our focus this year is going to be bringing more brands onto Tmall, but even more importantly, helping the brands that work with Tmall to become true digital champions.
It's already here. And the barrier has been broken. Previously, we were thinking that all luxury brands will not be devoting so much and taken the e-commerce so seriously. I think that last barrier has right now been officially broken. As you can see, the sophistication when it comes to the e-tailers have further evolved from one stage. Some will call it new retail, some will call it, but this is something really, really different. So from e-retailers or e-tailers, it has evolved into e-malls. I know some of the people will be like looking at me and say that, it's just been, in China, it's not going to work in Southeast Asia. Perhaps you can think again in the coming decade. What is going to happen? We're not talking about tomorrow. We're not talking about next year. We're talking about at least a timeline of 3 years from now. And that is something that is troubling. So right now, the e-malls has just begun. So unlike e-marketplaces, there are 4 key areas that is very deadly about an e-mall. I have just summed it up so that you think whether this makes sense. These are what I call features that make them into really game changers that will accelerate the adoption process. And in the next 3 years, I believe that we're going to see something changing even more. So, for example, the unholy alliance between brands. If you're in the luxury segment like what I operate in, you realize that Kerling and Richemont are actually competitors. So Kerling is the one that gave you Gucci, Richemont is the one that gave you Cartier. And by right, the both of them will not talk to each other and they will not cooperate. But this one, and for the first time, they are cooperating because of COVID. And Farfetch used to be a marketplace that focused on selling those unsold inventory. So it's a very like discount type of item. And they would not also come together with Kerling and Richemont. So you have a very unholy alliance, which you have all these players coming in together. Now, secondly, all of them have equity stakes in the new platform. So just imagine this. You run KLCC. The brands own a share in KLCC. You run Pavilion. The brand owns a share in Pavilion. Do you think that they will let it fail? So this is what is happening in e-malls at the moment. So it's not just a vendor relationship anymore. It is a vested interest inside the platform. And at the same time, with that money on the table, and they're not just like, we're just talking theory, they're putting the money on the table and growing it. So, thirdly, you have all these brands. Now, if you are a luxury brand or you want to talk about branding, tell me one brand higher than Cartier. Tell me one brand that is more recognized than Gucci. So these are not the Giordano brand. No offense to Giordano. These are not the mass brand. These are the pinnacle of the luxury brand. And they are right now embarking on this path. And they are not just participating, they are inside that particular thing, part of an e-mall that seeks to revolutionize the whole retail industry. So if this works, if this tripod works, this tripod of relationship works, working with the big brand owners, and if you are the middle player, whether you are going to be a distributor, you're a retailer, you are an agent, you could be also a mall owner that has, not strong relationship with the brand owners, and you just think of like increasing rent every year. Good luck. Really good luck. Okay? The location theory. It works in the 80s, it worked in the 90s, it worked maybe even until the last decade, or until 2020. But in the new era of 2020 to 2030, that will not be so essential. When we say it's not important, it will not be so essential. So the middle person that is involved in all this might no longer be relevant. So this is the second feature of a typical e-mall, which solves the problem of the brands. in terms of manpower, in terms of moving closer to the client. So have a look at
Austin Li Jiaqi is a 27-year-old beauty advisor turned live streamer and one of the top influencers in China. He once sold 15,000 lipsticks in only 5 minutes and has a following of 42.1 million fans on Douyin. Each month, he earns over $150,000. This was made possible because of live streaming e-commerce, a rising trend in China. In addition to making stars out of streamers like Li Jiaqi, it's driving billions of sales to e-commerce platforms. So how does it work? Generally speaking, it has similarities to traditional TV shopping. Products are showcased by hosts and sold at discount prices. But with live streaming, there's added real-time interaction. This allows audiences to ask questions about products which streamers can directly answer. Things sold by live streamers include just about anything. Things like coats, lipsticks, a Maserati, an apartment, and even a rocket launch service. So this begs the question, what makes live streaming and e-commerce a good match? Live streaming entered China in 2015 and quickly gained popularity. By June 2019, the number of live streaming users reached 433 million, making up over 50% of Chinese internet users. Initially, live streaming was mostly for entertainment and socialization. But in 2016, Alibaba launched Taobao Live, adding a live streaming feature to the e-commerce platform. The aim was to entice users to spend more time on Taobao, and the strategy worked. During Singles Day 2019, users who watched live streaming spent an average of 53 minutes on Taobao, twice as much as those who didn't.
即使是在线上交易或体验的时候，还是会无限的去追求这个体验是接近于线下的。无论是说被人服务的这种感觉，然后交互的这种速度上，还有这种信息量上，那其实直播都是更符合那个趋势的。
Taobao Live now has over 400 million cumulative users and exceeded a GMV of 28.3 billion last year. And it got another boost due to the coronavirus outbreak. Since physical stores were forced to stay closed during the pandemic, brand owners turned to live streaming to sell their products. Compared with January, the number of merchants that used Taobao Live increased by 719% in February. In fact, sales driven by the top 2 Taobao streamers Via and Li Jiaqi have already exceeded most physical stores. During Singles Day 2019, Via sold 2.7 billion yuan worth of products within 24 hours, with Li Jiaqi also selling over 1 billion. Due to their influence, top streamers hold great bargaining power over suppliers. This allows them to get products at the lowest price and helps attract more
consumers inside your email, which they are drawing the traffic. Isn't that a very deadly and very efficient combo? So do you still think that they will need a lot of locations to emit and communicate their brand sense out better than somebody that they idolize online and they follow this guy who talks very well about this brand? This is the changing trend. And what an e-mall does as compared to just an e-marketplace is an e-mall zoom in and focus and amplify that particular element. So these are things that is a lot of engagement. And I believe that this will be accelerated upwards even more. So it moves the clients on behalf of the brands in a much more efficient and effective way. And this is the second very important feature of email.
Austin Li Jiaqi is a 27-year-old beauty advisor.
So these are the market players already doing it. Tianmao, Last Mall, and Shopee Mall. They are already embarking on this. And just at the e-marketplace level. And when it comes to the email, it's going to be really very different. So the whole summary is very simple. The integrator or live stream is definitely going to be there by brands to connect with their clients. And the rise of super salespeople. So if you think that the first 2 features are not bad enough or are not like nightmares, look at this third feature.
As you know, many shoppers like to browse before they buy. It's a fluid process. They'll place items in the cart, remove items, add other items, before deciding whether to make the purchase or abandon their cart. One way to help close more sales is with dynamic messaging, a unique feature from PayPal that lets customers know about financing offers early in their shopping experience. Dynamic messaging is included when you offer PayPal Pay Later options on your site. Here's how dynamic messaging works. PayPal automatically displays the most relevant Pay Later option to customers based on the products they're browsing. For smaller purchases, shoppers will see Pay in 4 messaging. For larger purchases, shoppers will see messaging about PayPal Credit special financing. Why is this important? Businesses with pay over time messaging on their site saw a 56% increase in overall PayPal average order value. PayPal Pay Later with dynamic messaging is great for customers because it provides increased purchasing power. It's great for businesses because it helps grow sales, average order value, and conversions with no additional costs. It takes just a simple integration to add dynamic messaging to your site. Get started today.
So think about it again for this third feature inside email that is definitely going to come.
One way to help close more.
These are already the local players. If you think PayPal is in Europe and it wouldn't affect, or in US it will not affect, look, these are the local players already coming in. Grab, Pay Later by Grab, Atomy, Hola, these are already inside Malaysia. They are not outside waiting to come in. They are already here. So again, the new trend of use now, pay later is gaining pace. It will not maybe appeal to you or me or the older folks because you just shake our head and know this is like borrowing future credit to us, but it will appeal to those below 30 years old or those people that doesn't have a credit card or those people that basically have a credit limit. This is something that is changing. Okay, and just imagine in the online realm, before you ask people, just say take the product, use it first. The whole thing that will be pay later, versus you go to the offline mall and they ask you that you have to make the payment as what happens. So this is the third thing about an e-mall that is deadly. And remember, an e-mall only has legit brands. E-mall does not accept any brands that is basically counterfeit or doesn't have a brand IP, meaning that it could be, just drop shippers will never be appearing on an e-mall. It's very concentrated, but concentrated by brand owners. So you can see that these three things are definitely going to be there. And again, finally, the fourth feature of the email. Okay. Third-party funders like this are right now helping to accelerate the use of e-malls or e-marketplace because they will fund the tenants. This is like going to be like just tip of the iceberg because this also came out somewhere in 2015. It got accelerated in 2016. And those people at the site thinking that, oh no, this is just a passing phenomenon. Again, good luck. They started in 2015. By the end of November 2019, they dispersed USD 1 billion in loans. And recently, they also received a tax exemption whereby if you invest, the interest return is actually not deductible from 2020 onwards. That will really fund the growth and accelerate that. And on top of this, not just funding society, even Lazada is funding their own tenants, online tenants, to grow bigger. So just imagine you are a mall, right? The mall lends money to those that earns money inside the tenant to help them to grow. This is something unheard before, but it is already here. All the things that I mentioned is that it is not to say that I planned or I forecast. it is already here. It's already here in Malaysia, it's already here in Singapore, it's already here in Southeast Asia, and it's going to become, it is the only thing that is going to, we can't see is how fast it can really be adopted by the local consumers. So take a moment and think, these are the 4 features of an e-mall. And wonder to yourself or self-reflect to yourself whether what kind of opportunities and what kind of issues that will come out in the next 5 years. So think about it. So as you can see, my last statement, the e-malls is working with third-party funders to actually work with their tenants to make it become stronger. So just now I have shared that the e-mall perspective. Remember the earlier slide whereby I shared that they are putting the cash to grow the traffic, amplifying traffic, focusing on data, and other than changing the behavior which I touched on earlier. Now we actually dive deeper into the strategic perspective of all these e-malls. Okay, in a typical e-mall or e-marketplace, but mainly more of an e-mall now, is that their only focus is only 3 areas. Everything starts from the brand. Okay, unlike a marketplace whereby you can still be a middle person, whether you are a dropshipper, whether you are just a tenant, the e-mall focus very zoom in on brands, brand owners. Okay, and they focus what the brand owners does not have, which is traffic and data. Because if you have the traffic and the data as a brand owner, as a manufacturer, you know what to produce, right? So your real thing is that you want to get your goods out there in a very efficient manner. Of course, all this while is that the experience fulfillment is not there, but it means that end consumer could not touch the product. That's why the malls are still relevant. But now with traffic and data, which focus a lot on the younger generation or the younger audience, this might change. So the e-mall focus is still pretty much about traffic, which will translate to data. And of course, clients. How to reach out to the clients, how to finance the clients, how to make the clients do that purchase online. That is something that an e-mall is always thinking about. So the last mile delivery logistics and the last mile financial support, such as use now, pay later, is going to be there. And that explains why, when you look from an e-mall perspective, when you zoom in, these are the things you're looking at. Now, again, you look at this color chart and try to make sense what the e-mall is doing, right? So the logic is similar to snake and ladder. Just imagine snake and ladder. I believe everybody here plays before. So red means danger, green is the zone that everybody wants to go, yellow, orange is always the in-between. So let's start off with the red zone. Red zone is always the start zone. This is the zone where everybody onboard their e-capability to reach out to the market. Okay, so you have offline retailers wanting to go online. This is where we start. Everybody start. Low value, low traffic, and mainly focus on the local market and not really focusing on the overseas market. Then you will try to expand. You will try to expand into high traffic, low traffic, high value, low traffic area, meaning that you will try to find items to sell which have a bigger margin, or you will go into low margin but focusing a lot on growing your traffic. So what we define the yellow zone is the profit zone, whereby profit is the key and essential part of your approach to the market. You focus profit, you will not spend beyond what you can earn. This sounds really comforting to a lot of those that is attempting to grow their e-marketplace or e-malls towards this zone. Then there is another group we call the growth zone. The growth zone is you spend a lot of money beyond what you earn. you race to capture as much traffic as possible, and you focus on profit in the later part. And you always start with onboarding as many middle person as possible. So after you move from the red zone to either the yellow or the orange zone, right? You still want to go to the green zone. So what happens? You try to go to the green zone, but if you really look at the chart, you'll notice one thing. Those people in the yellow zone have, like snake and ladder, have, if they fail and they couldn't go into the high traffic zone because of the low traffic, because they don't understand the data they're managing, they don't understand the audience they're managing, there's a chance that they will come down back to the red zone. Now, on the other hand, if you are at the orange zone, you understand your clients, you have the data, you might not be doing well, and all you need is the last piece of the puzzle to complete your business model, which is working with brands and giving you more traffic, more margin, more value, and expanding overseas to achieve the economy of scale. There is a higher chance for you to go up. Where? It's a sweet spot. So this is the area whereby all the E players want to be. So this pretty much explains the earlier part, that why that they are crazy and they are trying their best to go into the orange zone from the red zone. Traditional corporate players will always be thinking, I would want to be in that yellow zone and not the orange zone. But they fail to see that there is a very high chance that they will slip back to the red zone. So the difference between these two is that if you look at those as below, is always selling local, and you look at those as overseas, above is always selling overseas as well. But then again, if you do not have the critical mass in your local audience, it's very dangerous when you embark on something that's your overseas audience as well, because you will not understand on how to reach out to them. So again, I'm giving you example, which I hope that it helps to make you understand even better. So in the red zone, this is like a typical person, right? They onboard. I'm not anti-person. So they are just starting their online, they targeted, and you guess what? They are not thinking really, if you look at the whole thing, they are not thinking of acquiring new customers. They are thinking of focusing on existing database. Those people that they have bought from them before, they are thinking that the sales will come from this group. They are not that aggressive in chasing everybody to come in. So they still pretty much low traffic and focus a lot on local. Then you have like people like Chrono24, which is operating from Germany, focusing on worldwide. Traffic is also not so much, but focusing on high value items like watches. One watch is easily 20 to 50,000 and things like that. So it's very high value, focusing around the world. So, but the traffic has not really taken place. So it's a typical e-store to e-retailer story over at the left-hand side. But on the other side, the orange zone, you have Q10, Shopee, Lazada, Shop365, Cox, Hitvan. All these are technically areas whereby they focus on traffic. They are focusing on acquiring traffic. So if you really look at it, they started from, then of course you have the green zone that is like Kmall, Last Mall, and as what I shared earlier, Farfetch. So from e-marketplace to e-retailer and then to e-malls. So whether the e-mall is really able to generate profits, this one you have to wait and see in the next 3 to 5 years. Because right now when the brands come in, supposedly you will have much more margin, and they're not just coming, they have a vested interest as well. So that pretty much sum up the perspective from corporate insight as well. Now, however that I've explained, the logic of the risk, the steps, the by marketplace that evolve into e-malls, let us proceed to what is required of an e-mall. So how do you, what are the key things that's very important in a successful email? I believe by now there could be some more owner or thinking in your head, how to organize their back-end team to actually do it, right? So these are just very simplistic steps on how you can actually approach the game. So again, there are 5 key elements if you observe all the successful emails, other than, they are burning cash, getting money to, burn cash to acquire traffic. The first thing is that they have pace. They adapt to change very, very fast. The second, interaction. They focus on engaging the audience. They don't focus on just putting the product there and expect it to sell. Third, they don't focus on discounting. They focus on value creation. Fourth, they focus on building overseas market and not just focusing on local market or just their neighborhood. And finally, the team. Almost on average, our team are all below 30 years old. Walk to the Lazada, walk to Shopee, you will realize that their age of the team there are all below, on average, is below 30 years old. So the whole idea is pivot. How do you pivot? How do you pivot accordingly? So the whole email, the whole principle is about pivoting the business. It's not conforming to what works before, it's about pivoting. So now let us look at the pace of the adaptive to change. When you see this thing, what do you see? What used to be something that 55 to 65 years old that not buying is also buying, right? What used to be 45 to 54, the people that say I need to touch, feel, whatever, is already moving ahead. The only thing that between this chart that really goes in the favor of traditionalists is that the basket size is still relatively small. It's not big, but the moment if it comes up bigger, basket size meaning that the amount of purchases you do in one purchase, if you start to hit 2,000, 3,000, that's where people really stand up and see that it's really relevant. Of course, mall owners or people that in the traditional malls, they will still talk about, people still have this omni-channel and things like that, but that one we put it aside. We're talking about essential to an email. So the way that the young people are going to shop is going to be very different from Generation X and those that is older. Just take a look at, your kid playing that phone over dinners. You ask the kid to put it down, what happens? You look at your kid buying things online, which you also don't understand the logic behind it. That is already the sign of a difference. Now, in the 80s, when departmental stores are successful, or 90s, I believe that the buyers are always younger. That means their age is also around late 20s to 30s. But today, when we run an e-mall, it's not about the older or wise opinion that count. It's about the younger generation because they can connect. So in another decade, those between the last two groups will actually supersedes whatever that is already in the shopping scene and will become the main buyers. Number 2, pivot, as I explained earlier, is about engagement. It's about reaching out to the clients. It's not about sitting there and wait for the clients to come. It's a totally new, different shopping experience. So don't wait for the audience, go for them. Simple as that. Value. Think about it. In the past, we used to say buying online doesn't have value. Now, somebody is changing the game. Now, they believe that price is no issue for those that seek value. Right? You pay peanuts, you get monkeys. So, for brands like Cartier, it's not an issue. Okay? Service is the premium that you pay beyond manufacturing costs. In like branding practitioner like me, I believe in that. Okay? If otherwise, if there's no service, there's no value, you just pay the cost of making the product plus a little bit and that's it. But it's always about service. Now, just imagine this. These are all done online. Today, when you buy a Cartier, you knock on your door, you're dressed like that, and you deliver to you, and you give you the one-to-one personalized service when you buy a Cartier online. This guy will appear at your front, sharing with you what you have bought. Now, let me ask you, do you get that in malls, in physical malls? So this is what is part of a e-mall perspective. It's value creation. So overseas, e-mall takes on the world. Okay, so then you have to look at it from another angle. Their numbers are not just contained to this country or that country. Their numbers are contained to the whole thing. So it makes sense to them. And even if you don't do anything, they will come to the market. Okay, they will come after your market. Even you put it on a defensive. So again, this is very challenging, and it's always part of a successful email. You have to always think ahead and expand overseas. And lastly, if you a successful email will always look at the demographics of their team and try to keep it below 30. Look at the social media. The people that everybody is putting money on is targeting 34 years old and below. They are not spending money to target people that's from my age onwards. They are targeting people that are from 34 and below. This is the amount of money they are focusing right now on. And you look at all the successful tech companies, it's all generally below 30 years old. And this are one of the very key trends that is a growing company. So to achieve traffic, this is always a tough part. To achieve the traffic, you always need the tech people, right? But the tech people can only get you so far. So they will normally form the main bulk. To achieve value, you need people with ritual experience, right? So that will form around 20% of your team. The people that are still, knowing what's going on and how the brand still operates, so that there is a communication level here and there. Now, to achieve the goal, you need to mix these two blend together to form a team. Now, if your team is 100% all young adults, I don't think it's going to work. They were able to get the traffic for you, but they were not able to increase the value. And overall, that is a group that I would think that is very important for a successful email. Keep the average age below 30 years old. Okay, that is a sign of a growing dynamic team. So we have reached the conclusion part, and by now I hope that you all have already got a very clear idea of how it's moving from an e-marketplace to an e-mall. So if you look at this diagram here, and you can see that what I have covered. Let me just sum up what I have covered. So far, I believe that everybody that really have listened to the presentation so far, other than hopefully you're not too sleepy and you're not walking around to take coffee and all this. But the more important thing is that you have to form your own thoughts on the e-malls challenging the retail industry. We are not talking about the past. I'm talking about this decade, 2021 to 2031. This is something that is coming because we have 5G coming out next. We have more IoTs, we have more AI, big data all coming out next, which create a very big environment that is very suited to grow the e-malls. So other than the supply of the retail space which the offline mall owners are battling, there are other factors that need to solve as well. However, I always believe there are two sides to a coin. Be it that as a start, there's also positive and plentiful opportunities to leverage on as well. So now, let me just sum up the 4 key areas that I have shared. I have covered what is an e-marketplace. I've also covered what are the things that is coming, the future of affecting the future of retail. I've also covered the strategic process of the e-mall, the thinking behind, the numbers behind, and why and which zone they are going after. As when you see the future of retail, you start to see all these four measures, four new features that nobody thought was possible even 5 years ago. It's already here. And now we look at the key elements of a successful e-mall. Now, in summary, this is a business that few understands, as is fighting for traffic and data, which are very useful and cheaper right now. Just imagine 5 years down the road when everybody got their traffic and data, and then you have, like, for example, the data protection all coming into place. Data is going to become more expensive than before. If you don't right now crawl the data right now, you crawl it 5 years later, I believe that it's going to be much, much, much more expensive. Okay? So these are things that those that are operating the e-marketplace or the e-malls, they understand. But again, you go to a traditional business owner and you tell him that, look, you got to burn the money to have a chance to earn money in future. I believe that that's not going to happen. And that is the thing that is making a lot of traditional businessmen unable to compete against all these new boys or new players in town. Now, again, if I sound like I'm siding with those people from the tech side, they are not from the retail or the wholesale side. Not really, because it's not just about tech. Tech can only bring you so far, but it's a breaking point. It's the start of everything. But it's also depend on how well you know the brand. How well you know the brand so that you can achieve together to break through. Remember the pivot that I shared just now? That balance is needed in a team. So, well, I have come to the last of my webinar, and hopefully the objectives have been delivered. Now, here are my personal prediction of retail in this coming decade. First of all, omni-channel will be the buzzword. It's like a safety word. Everybody that doesn't know what to do, the offline will just say, let's go omni-channel. But how many people can really execute it, I do not know. But that is already the actual thing also happening, whereby e-marketplace partner with more. That's also happening. But the biggest challenge is how do you calculate GTO? Because with that, you can't calculate. You buy online and then they're supposed to have this percentage that they claim against you in malls when you have a higher sales. So right now, you buy online, they can't track. So this is something to work out. But I believe that omni-channel will be the key buzzword. Then, of course, I believe the premium malls will still exist, like KLCC, Party, Genting, all this will still exist with a very thematic team that focus a lot on the traffic. But others will fail. Now, in US, we look at it. In China, we look at it. All these malls, they grow. But then after that, with huge vacancy, they will close. They will consolidate. That's what I'm saying. And the last mile delivery is essential. Of course, if you really look at it, recently they came out with a thing saying that having offline stores helps the online as well, right? But you must imagine this applies to certain group of products, not across the board. So it doesn't take account into that. So again, the third thing is that e-malls will continue to burn cash. That's good news to those people that wish a bit of more time, because they are busy acquiring traffic and they know that traffic will become more expensive. It's like right now you are just trying to lower down your cost and acquire as much as possible, because in time to come, to fight back this traffic, you need to spend. Like for example, those people that they know about SEO or SEM. During COVID, the price of advertising actually went up because everybody advertised at that moment for the same group of audience. So just imagine that. So it is not profitable right now, does not mean that it will not be profitable by the end of this decade. So the good thing is there will be more brands coming in. They will still remain unprofitable, at least in the next 3 to 5 years. But by the time that they change or they acquire a certain critical mass, it's too late for anybody to come in already. And finally, there will definitely be more government help because every government will want the economy to do well. I believe that there will be a lot of money that will be sink into this sector to pivot their e-commerce or national digital economy towards being the main key pillar to the GDP. So I've come to really the end of the deck, and I hope that this information can really help everybody to have a better understanding of the e-com marketplace moving into e-malls. Thank you and have a nice afternoon. If you have any questions to share, you can leave it in this webinar and I'll try my best to get back to you and answer. And you can also visit our e-booth. If you want, you can set an appointment and we can actually have a good conversation. I look forward to seeing you also at our e-booth. At the same time, I just want to have this thing that I want to really thank MTE. They're celebrating their 20th this year. I just want to congratulate them. And I'm glad that they have transitioned from a physical exhibition to online like this. And this is the future. Thank you for having me, the organizers of MTE 2021. I'm honored to be sharing my points here. And for those that have attending my webinar, I look forward to having an e-appointment with you at my booth, Monster Mall, if you'd like to know more about what we are doing. Thank you.